Imagine waking up every single day feeling like you had already lost the battle before it even started. Imagine the crushing weight of empty pockets, the constant shadow of overdue bills, and that hollow ache in your chest that tells you you were meant for more, yet you're stuck in a cycle of survival that never ends. Most people spend their lives hitting the snooze button on their dreams, literally and figuratively. But what if I told you that there is a hidden portal of power that opens at exactly 5 in the morning, a sacred window of time that can turn a man with nothing into a man who has everything? Today I am going to share with you the raw, unfiltered story of one man who was at the very bottom of the social ladder, a man who felt invisible to the world, until he decided to claim the dawn and, in doing so, changed his destiny forever. If you are ready to stop making excuses and start building your empire while the rest of the world is still dreaming, you need to hear every single word of the story, because the roadmap to your transformation starts right now. Before we dive into this life-changing journey, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button for Motivational Head and turn on the notifications. We are building a community of lions who refuse to settle for crumbs, and I want you to be a part of this movement from day one. The story begins with a man named James, who lived in a cramped, noisy apartment in the heart of a city that didn't care if he lived or died. James was the definition of working poor. He worked 2 jobs, wore shoes with thin soles, and lived on coffee and cheap noodles. Yet no matter how hard he ran, he stayed in the same place. His life was a blur of exhaustion. He would wake up at the last possible second, rush to a job he hated, come home exhausted, and numb his brain with television until he fell asleep to do it all over again. He was a spectator in his own life, watching the years slip by like sand through his fingers, until one rainy Tuesday night when his car broke down and he realized he didn't even have $50 in his savings account to fix it. That moment of absolute brokenness wasn't his end, it was his spark. He realized that if he kept doing what he was always doing, he would keep getting what he always got. And he made a silent vow to the universe. He would outwork his circumstances, and he would start by winning the first hour of the day. The first time James set his alarm for 5 a.m., his mind tried to betray him with every excuse in the book, telling him he was too tired, that it didn't matter, and that he could start tomorrow instead. But James knew that tomorrow is the graveyard where most dreams are buried, so he forced his feet onto the cold floor and stood up in the pitch-black silence of his room. In that first hour of the first day, he didn't do anything heroic. He just sat with his own thoughts, away from the noise of social media and the demands of his bosses. For the first time in a decade, James wasn't reacting to the world. He was preparing for it. He started using those early hours to read books on psychology, to study the habits of the wealthy, and to exercise his body until his lungs burned and his mind cleared. He discovered that the 5 a.m. club isn't just about waking up early. It is about establishing a psychological dominance over your own laziness and proving to yourself that you are the master of your own fate. As the weeks turned into months, a strange and beautiful transformation began to take place within him. While his neighbors were still snoring, James was already 2 hours deep into personal development, meaning that by the time he arrived at his 9-to-5 job, he had already achieved more than most people do in an entire week. His confidence began to radiate off him like a physical heat. He spoke with more authority, he solved problems with more clarity, and he stopped seeing himself as a victim of his environment. He began to realize that poverty is often a state of mind that is reinforced by poor habits, and by changing his morning, he was literally rewiring his brain for abundance. He started a small side business at his kitchen table during those early hours, a business that required focus and creativity that he never had energy for at the end of a long workday. Because he was working on his own dream during the most productive hours of his day, his business didn't feel like a chore. It felt like a rescue mission. People started asking him what his secret was, thinking he had found some magic pill or a hidden inheritance, but James would just smile and look at his watch. The secret was the discipline to be alone with your goals when it's uncomfortable, the courage to be different from the crowd, and the persistence to keep showing up when no one is cheering for you. He was no longer the man with the thin-soled shoes. He was a man on a mission, and the world was starting to move out of his way. The small side project he started in the dark began to generate more income than his main job, allowing him to finally quit the work that was killing his spirit. He didn't just escape poverty, he obliterated it by building a foundation of character that no recession or bad luck could ever take away. This is the power of the early hour. It gives you the time to build a version of yourself that is capable of carrying the weight of success. As James sat in the growing light of his kitchen, watching the sun peek over the city skyline, he realized that the 5 a.m. habit had done something more profound than just making him money. It had given him a sense of self-respect he hadn't felt since he was a child. He began to see his life as a series of strategic moves rather than a series of accidents, and with this new perspective, he decided to scale his small business into something that could change not just his life, but the lives of others. He used the quiet hours of the morning to draft a business plan that was so detailed and so ambitious that it would have intimidated the old version of himself. But the new James, the man forged in the stillness of the dawn, wasn't afraid of big numbers or high stakes anymore. He spent his early mornings reaching out to potential partners in different time zones, studying market trends before the news even hit the mainstream cycle, and perfecting his craft with a level of intensity that was only possible because his mind was fresh and uncluttered by the day's stress. The momentum was unstoppable now, and the small apartment that once felt like a prison began to feel like a launch pad. He started documenting his journey, sharing the raw truth of his 5 a.m. routine on social media, not to brag, but to show other people who were trapped in the same cycle of poverty that there was a way out that didn't require a lottery ticket or a miracle. His message resonated with thousands of people who were tired of the hustle culture that promoted burnout and instead wanted a sustainable path to excellence. As his community grew, so did his influence, and soon he was being invited to speak at conferences and mentor young entrepreneurs. He would tell them that the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind and a snooze button, because every time you choose comfort over growth, you are paying for it with your future. He explained that the silence of the morning is a laboratory where you can experiment with your potential without the fear of judgment from the outside world. Years later, James stood on the balcony of a home he had once only dreamed of, looking out at the same city where he used to walk with holes in his shoes. He wasn't there by luck. He was there by appointment, an appointment he kept with himself every single morning at 5 o'clock. He realized that the poor man he used to be didn't die because of a change in his bank account, but because of a change in his standards. He had replaced the habit of complaining with the habit of preparing, and that made all the difference. He looked back at those early days of shivering in the dark with a cold cup of coffee and realized those were the most beautiful moments of his life, because that was where his character was truly built. Success is not a destination you arrive at. It is a person you become, and that person is created in the small, difficult choices you make when no one is watching and when your bed feels the warmest. If you've listened to this story and you feel a spark in your soul, that isn't just a coincidence, it's a call to action. You have the same 24 hours as the greatest achievers in history, but the question is, what are you doing with the first 3? Are you giving them away to social media and news cycles, or are you investing them in the only asset that can truly set you free, yourself? I want to challenge you right now to stop being a spectator in your own life. This story doesn't have to end here. It can be the beginning of your own transformation. I want you to take a moment and commit to your future self right now in the comments, right where I am reclaiming my time down below, if you are ready to join the 5 a.m. Club and start writing your own story of destiny. Let this be the digital contract you sign with your own potential. Your journey to greatness doesn't require a massive leap. It just requires a single step into the light of a new day. If this story moved you or gave you the perspective you needed today, Please share it with one person who is struggling to find their way. You never know how much a simple message of hope can change someone's path. Don't forget to like this video if you found value in James's journey, as it helps us reach more people who need this wake-up call. We are here every week to provide you with the mental fuel you need to keep pushing forward, so make sure you're subscribed to Motivational Head. The sun is going to rise tomorrow, whether you are awake to see it or not, but for those who choose to meet it halfway, the world belongs to them. Go out there, claim your dawn, and remember that your destiny is not something you wait for. It is something you create. We'll see you in the next one.